Hello everyone! So as you can see, it's a bit of a different setting this time, and that is because I am currently in the north of Norway. I am here to work for a couple of weeks. That's why everything looks different. And I actually didn't want to film in here because this is the room I have, because for different reasons. One, because there is a construction site just next to my window, so I do hope they will not interrupt this video too much with their construction noise. And second, because I didn't want to disturb my housemates, but it is pretty calm today inside the house. Many of them are working in the museum right now, so maybe this is a good time. I waited several days to try and wait until the weather would clear up so I could film outside actually, but it has been so windy and stormy and rainy that it feels like I could keep waiting forever. But anyway, this video is not about me. This video is about you and how you can find easier ways and good methods to move to Norway. So this is the fourth video in my series, and today we are going to talk about finding your first job. How exciting! I'm going to split the video maybe in two parts. So the first part, I'm going to talk about what the best methods are, or how can you find a job in Norway before actually moving here, so that you have a job waiting for you when you finally take the step towards immigration. And then I'm also going to talk more towards the end about how you can also just first move to Norway and then find a job while you already are here, and then maybe what are the advantages and disadvantages between the two methods of finding a job. Because the first option, trying to find a job before you move, so trying to find a job in Norway, in another country than where you are currently living, it is quite difficult. I'm not going to lie to you, it is very difficult, and it is definitely easier to find a job only after moving here, but then as well you have the disadvantage of the insecurity, right? So you move here and you have no idea, will I find a job, how long will it take me? So you can see it both has advantages and disadvantages. But actually, before I start talking about those two, I think I might first talk about the job application process and where you can find jobs, where you can find empty jobs, and what are maybe the best strategies for actually applying for those jobs. So you have several websites in Norway that you can check out. I will list them below in the description of this video. But that is, if I remember correctly, it is finn.no. It is jobbnorge.no, and it is a third one that is called, it's through the website of nav.no. So I will list them below in the description of this video, and those are websites where you can find empty job listings, or you can find places where people are actively looking for job applicants. So please check those out. Warning, it will probably all be in Norwegian. So, but as we covered in the previous videos, you should learn Norwegian before you come here. You should learn at least something, so you can now try to find a job in Norwegian. In all of these websites, you will probably be able to filter for the kind of job you want. You will be able to filter through like full-time or part-time. You will be able to filter location, just like any other regular job listing website in any country, I think. When you would like to apply for one of these jobs that you can find in these job listings, then you can click probably through on the job listing and you will be sent to a different website, a special application website, or an application applicants almost. So then you will have to fill in all your information. You will have to fill in your education, your job experience. You will probably have to upload some documents about yourself, and you will also have to write like an introduction text or like job application text. Now, I do encourage you, if you do that, to please try and do it in Norwegian. Even if that means that you have to write almost baby language. Because I tell you do it in Norwegian, but I don't mean just write what you want in English and throw it in Google Translate and like post what comes out. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. If you speak only a little bit of Norwegian, try to represent what you can actually speak in what you are writing. So even if that means that you have to write really simple language, but then you can also have the option of starting your first paragraphs with the more simple things in Norwegian, and then switch to English in your later paragraphs where you maybe want to talk about more difficult things. That's an option as well if you really don't know how to talk about everything yet in Norwegian. But try to make the Norwegian that you write be the same Norwegian as you can actually speak, as you actually have. That's a good tip. So that's the first option. So go to job listings and just apply it to job listings. The second one is, of course, to check out very interesting companies. Just start Googling companies or companies that you have heard of before maybe, and do a spontaneous application. But again, try to do your communication in Norwegian. So that is a good option as well. And then the third option, people find jobs in Norway, that is actually through knowing people. And sadly, this is how it most likely will go in Norway. So Norway is a small country, it has a low population number, and many places, except for maybe a few bigger cities, many places have very small communities. That means everybody knows everybody basically, and people know when there's an empty job listing, and they will tell other people who are maybe, oh, that's maybe good for you, and then people know people, and people who get the job most likely know somebody in the company, or have a friend who works in the company. So I'm not going to lie to you, this is going to make it very difficult for you, because you are not in Norway and you do not have Norwegian friends yet. So that is why when you start looking for a job from outside Norway to look in Norway, this will make it very difficult, because you only will be able, you only have the first two options, right? You only can go to active job listings, or you can do spontaneous applications, but you don't have the third option available, which is people know people, and finding a job that way. Now you can try to be creative in this. You can try to find a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend who knows somebody who lives somewhere in Norway, and maybe that will already help you very much. But all of the cases, when you try to find a job while not moving, while not already living in Norway, it will be difficult for you. So you will have to be very persistent. Don't give up with only 10 job applications. So you have to be very persistent. You can, of course, if you do job applications, you can always do a follow-up, like send a follow-up email to confirm your interest, or even a follow-up phone call. But also, don't try to be too assertive with it, because Norwegian people do not like confrontation. So don't be too aggressive with these follow-up emails as well, okay? So, to summarize this first part already, there's 3 ways you can find a job in Norway: through active job listings on job listing websites. You can do spontaneous applications to interesting companies, and you can try to find a friend of a friend of a friend who knows, who works in the city you want to move to, or maybe even works in a company you want to work in. And sadly, the third option is the most common one in Norway. Now, there are also big differences between the different work fields. So different kind of jobs will be easier to find than other kinds of jobs. So I will maybe start with doctors and nurses, like health personnel. If you are a nurse or a doctor, I have really good news for you, because there is a big shortage in Norway. So that means that it will be easier for you to find a job if you're a nurse or a doctor. The first thing you have to do, though, if that is you will have to have your degree certified in Norway. And that goes to the website of helsedirektoraat.no. So I will also list that website down below. And when you have your certificate that you can work as a health personnel in Norway, you can start looking for job listings as well. Or you can just start contacting hospitals or other instances. And also, because you're actively working with people, they will ask a certain level of Norwegian. They will most often ask like a B1 or a B2, but because they have a shortage of it, they may be happy to just find people who speak a lower level of Norwegian, and then trust they will just grow by working in the job, and you might be expected to follow a job language course next to your job. Another job that will be very easy to find is, for example, if you are a software developer, or you're some kind of working with data or with software. Because, like everywhere else in the world, those people are in shortage as well here in Norway. And another advantage of this kind of profession is, because you will probably work in a company where you not have to directly work with customers or clients of people, you will get away with a much lower level of Norwegian. Maybe you even find companies like in the big cities like Bergen or Oslo, they're a little bit international, so maybe one of the working languages in the company is even English, but you might be expected still to learn Norwegian while you're on the job, or take a language course next to your job as well. So that stays the same, especially if you want to have any social life while you're working in Norway. So nurses, doctors and software or data people, you're very lucky. I was not one of those people. Now, all other professions might have it a bit more difficult, I'm not going to lie. Some professions, it might be even impossible to just directly start with. With that I mean, for example, lawyers or accountants who are educated in or have experience in the laws or the ways of working in a specific country, and you just can't move it to Norway because Norway has different laws, and the way things work here are different in those kind of professions. So not only do you need knowledge of how, like, law in Norway, you also need a high level of Norwegian knowledge, you know, because everything is in Norwegian. So if you're one of those professions, I would recommend to you to try to start out with a different profession. Maybe even a profession you don't need any education or any degree in at all, and you maybe have some experience in from your student years, or through some other event in your life you have experience in something else. For example, you can work in a coffee house or a bakery, or maybe you can work in a hotel, or any of those things might be a good way to start off, because in those kind of professions it will be less stressful for you to start learning Norwegian. You will get integrated already a little bit, you will learn the language, you will learn the culture, you will learn how things go, and you will get your administration in Norway completely settled. And then maybe after a few years, you can apply for those jobs you wanted to do in the first place. But if this is one of you, I would also recommend you to just send an email to companies. Like if you're a lawyer, send emails to lawyers in Norway and ask, what do you have to do to get your education certified in Norway? Maybe you have to take an extra course or two, and it might be really interesting for you to know that from the beginning. So even if you start working in a different profession, you can already start with getting qualified for your original education from the start. So I really encourage you to do that. Now, all other professions, even because many educations and many degrees, they are the same in the whole world or the whole of Europe. That goes for, I don't know, engineers, that go for architects maybe, there may be, I know, there might be slight differences here, but there are a lot of degrees, like biologist or geologist or whatever, that are recognized in the whole of Europe. So that means if you have to get your degree certified in Norway, it's only like a formality. And like, for example, teachers as well, or there are so many hairdressers, there are so many professions that you can just very easily go from another country to Norway, because they kind of require the same education, they kind of require the same level of experience. But still, it might be really difficult to, from the start, find a job that is on the same level, if you know what I mean, than what you're now doing in your home country. That is one, because of Norwegian, again. So some companies will expect from you a really high level of Norwegian. Some companies don't. Some companies are really happy if you just speak the basics, and they will trust you to get better over time. But some companies really want you to speak good Norwegian from the start. Then, second of all, you don't know anyone yet. And the Norwegians, I say this very kindly, but they will prefer other Norwegians. So if you have some job applicants, I know this is very sensitive to talk about, and it's not maybe completely politically correct, but Norwegians will favor other Norwegians. Even if they don't know personally that other Norwegian, it's just the way it goes. It's probably the same way in your home country, right? So just keep that in mind. It's not personal. It's not personal at all. It's just sadly the reality of things. So you have that against you as well. So you can try to find jobs that you want, right? You can do job applications, but also it might be a good idea for you to just lower your standards, and for the first years try to find a job that doesn't require any education, or that you have experience in before, like those jobs, like in a hotel or working as a bartender, or there are so many jobs, so many nice jobs actually that you can do for the first years to integrate, to learn your Norwegian better, to get your administration in order, and then after a few years you will find it is so much easier to find a job like you were doing in your home country. Just you have to give it some time and patience, and I know it feels like a setback on your career. It will feel like you have to take a step back, and then even you will like get a little bit behind of like people of your age in your home country, but that's okay. You're moving to another country, that's ambitious, right? Okay, you can also, for example, try to find a job in more touristic places, because those people actually are really open to people who speak multiple languages. And that's aside from English, of course. So that might be a really good way to start out if you speak multiple languages, or you're coming from another country with a different mother tongue. It might be really interesting for you to look into tourism for the first years. And then you can get to know people as well, integrate, and it will get easier for you after a few years or after a few months already to start applying for jobs, the jobs that you actually want. So I do have another tip. If you are moving together with a partner or a wife or a husband or whatever, then be happy if one of you finds a job before moving there. Don't try to get two jobs in the same place. I mean, you can succeed. I believe in you, but it will be very difficult. So start looking, both of you. And then if one of you like has a job prospect, like jump on that, and the other one can find a job once you like after moving. It will be much easier. So that was everything I had to say about trying to find a job before coming to Norway. And let's now talk a little bit about how you can find a job after moving to Norway, because many of the things I just said are still valid. Like you still have the same three options. You still have active job listings, check them out. You still have spontaneous applications with companies you're interested in. And then now you also have that third option available, because once you moved to Norway, and even after a few weeks maybe, you start getting to know people, you start getting integrated, you start getting more of the culture, you can start using that third option of knowing people, and get through job listings that aren't listed everywhere on a website, or people can recommend places to you, or people start knowing who you are and then think of you when there's a job listing. So it will get more interesting when you start looking, when you're already living in a place in Norway. I will maybe talk a little bit more broadly about this, because it is not that simple. It is not that just when you move to Norway, suddenly everybody knows you and everything gets simple. No, it will take time, okay? It will take time. And that is why a big downside of this option is your financial buffer. You will need a bigger one, because you have no idea how long it will actually take you to find a job. So you need to provide for yourself, like calculate, you need at least a couple of months, okay? So that's a really big downside, the financial aspect and the insecurity maybe. But if you got that covered, then it might be really enjoyable, because the first weeks or the first months you can get to know the place, maybe even travel a little bit in the place you are living in. You can get settled a little bit first, get to know where you are living. And then of course, another big advantage is you will already have an address. So maybe you have already like a rental place, or you have money enough to buy something, I don't know. That means that you will have a Norwegian address. And you will even... Okay, I'm not going to talk too much about this now, because there goes more into it than... It's not that simple, but maybe you already have a Norwegian phone number even, of like, or like a bank account, I don't know. And that makes that you are administratively in more... It will be more easy for you. You will be perceived as more trustworthy because you actually live in Norway. You have an address there, you know. That will make you more trustworthy towards companies. So that's a really big advantage as well. And then if you live in Norway already for a couple of weeks or months, I would really encourage you to find something like an outdoor activity club or another hobby club, because this is the best place to get to know Norwegians, especially if you don't know anyone. So just join one of these clubs, and then because you will have something in common, it's the best way to get to know Norwegians. You can get to know them much better and much faster when you are together in a club like this. And then people will start to know who you are. You will start having neighbors, you will start having friends from this club that you know. People will start getting to know who you are, where you are from, that you are looking for a job, that you want to stay here. And then after a few weeks or after a few months, I will not be surprised if people think of you when there is an open job listing, especially if it's one that if it's a thing you have experience in. So that's the biggest advantage of all. That is, knowing people is the biggest advantage, because also after a few weeks or months in Norway, your Norwegian will also be better, you know. It's only advantages, except for the fact that the insecurity and the financial aspect will make it very difficult for some people to actually do this. Most people will need a job prospect before coming, because they can't, it's really difficult to provide for themselves for a couple of months, even though I said it in my last video as well. You kind of do need a financial buffer when moving to another country, because you never know what will happen. Everything is more difficult. You can't rely on on having an income or having a salary every single month. So you do need a financial buffer anyway. So if you can save up a little bit longer and then maybe move to Norway first, it will be more easy to find a job. But if you want to find a job first, I do understand it. Most people want it. I really understand it. Then if one of you two, like if you're with a partner, if one of you finds one, be really happy about it. And also be really, really persistent, because you don't have that third option of knowing people, okay? I will give you one last resource. There is a website that exists, Work in Norway. I will list it below in the description as well, who will give you also a little bit more information about things you can do if you're coming from certain parts of the world and you want to work in Norway. Then I do hope you have learned something in this video. Try to make it a bit structured, but it's not impossible. Be persistent, maybe lower your standards a bit, and then before you know it, you will have a really nice job in Norway that is on the same level or in the same kind of profession as you did in your home country. So I wish you all the best with your search, because this is maybe the most difficult thing in the whole immigration process. Finding a job, if you need a job, this is maybe one of the most difficult things, I know. I also am really sorry if there was a lot of construction noises in this video. I am not going to be able to edit them out, I don't know how. We will see each other another time for a next video of how to move to Norway, or even if you're watching my vlogs as well, I hope to put out another vlog somewhere in the next weeks as well. So again, thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.